Empowered here? Okay, what makes you think that you are empowered?
My name is Mary Liza. I'm from Arusha, Tanzania mainland. What is making me to see like I'm empowered? Because what I have chosen to do, it is bearing the result. I am a local councillor representing women in a district level through CCM party.
Thank you for giving me the floor. My name is Ajomoila Emily Carol, coming from Cameroon. I'm working at the Cameroon Human Rights Commission. What makes me to say that I'm empowered is that I can stand for my rights. When I think something is right for me, I will fight for it. I will not let anyone impose me his or her opinion. Thank you.
Who else wants to share? Yes, please.
Juste être désolé parce que peut-être qu'il doit y avoir un souci à la régie, on n'entend pas bien quoi en fait. La traduction ne passe pas au même moment que vous avez fait chose. Pour le français quoi, voilà. Donc essayez de voir ça pour nous. Ça fait que je n'ai pas saisi exactement de quoi il s'agit. On n'attend pas en tout cas.
empowerment. And we are saying that with empowerment, you need to create that environment that you have the necessary resources, the necessary knowledge, the political voice, and the organizational capacity to be able to live your life as you should. And in this room, we do have some of us who are empowered. When you are empowered, you are equal. Are you not? Okay? So it's a tool to reduce poverty. It also advances development, because if you can be independent, you work, you have the education that you need to do whatever, and you can take care of yourself. You don't depend on anybody, but you can also take care of your parents, you can take care of your family. One would rightly say that you are empowered. So, I'm sure in the last 24 hours, since yesterday, you've been hearing about women have come a long way, you know, or others are saying that women have problems in the milieu that they live. But then let us look at the context. The context is that anywhere in the world, when you talk about poverty, it has a feminine face. When you talk about illiteracy, it does have a feminine face. It's a woman. Yes? And when you talk about those whose rights are violated more, you are looking at women. Are we agreed on that? Yes. When, in times of peace and in times of war, women face the worst, because they are used as weapons of war, and during times of peace, there is a lot of domestic violence that are meted out on women. Somebody was telling me, but what about men? I'm sure some of them also face domestic violence. But I want to posit that it's the women who face domestic violence more, because the men believe that they do have the strength. Yes, so if you are being beaten or whatever, and you exercise and you are stronger, you feel that you are stronger than him and you take it on, make sure you beat him properly. so that will be the last time that he will beat you up. Yes? If you don't, you are preparing yourself to be somebody's boxing, whatever.
My sister is advocating violence against men.
Violence against men. Because we have not seen a lot of violence against men, you know? So, because if somebody beats you today, you accept. Tomorrow he beats you, you accept. Hey, he might kill you the third time. So you have to decide. If you've come across victims of domestic violence, you know they believe that as time goes on, the person will change. But they will never change, because they have beaten you and gotten away with it. I remember a story of a neighbor. The husband always beats her up. And you know, the wife was also very broad. The husband was like this. So one day, she decided that she was going to teach him a lesson. And what she did was, she just took the man, threw him down, and sat on him. So the man was screaming, and then they were like, what is happening? And it was the woman screaming, not screaming more than the man. So by the time they came to pat them, the woman was screaming, the man was screaming. So you don't know who was telling the truth, but that was the last time the man raised his hand on her. You know? So you need to always make sure you have strategies. Don't allow yourself to become somebody's punching bag. Okay? And you also should not. You have a duty not to be punching other people. But then if you are somebody's punching bag, make sure you have a strategy to free yourself. So we know that when we talk about women, they also are 2/3 of women are illiterate in the world, globally. globally, yes, 2/3. 2/3, and also from a global perspective, women own only 1% of property. Yes, and they earn 10% of all income. Yet, they produce half of the world's food. Can you imagine? You find out that it's problematic. They have 1% of prosperity, 1%, and then 10% of all income. In the 90 goes to the men, okay? Yet, it is the women who feed half of the world's population. And we proceed to ask ourselves why. Increasingly, we also find that they are, like I said, they achieve, because of inequality, you find out that they face more challenges. And women are not even afforded the same rights. You are talking back to me. You ask, I am talking as your husband, and you are speaking back to me. That's the question they ask you. So you keep quiet. When your husband is talking, it means you keep quiet. Whatever he tells you, you do. So he trains you as his wife and then spoils the child. But in my own country, where I come from, the men are told, spoil your wives and train your children. But many of us are trained by the husband decides that they should be training you. Yes? And then by the time the children grow up, they are spoiled because they have been spoiled, they don't have manners, and it's problematic. But if you spoil your wife, you see that it will be reciprocal because the wife will always want you to be happy. But in some of our countries, you find out that our systems, it's problematic. And then there is also colonial constitutions, because most of us, our countries, have inherited constitutions from our colonialists. For example, you find out that in some of these, they undermine the protection of women. Have you stopped to ask yourself why in Britain, they still, after Margaret Thatcher, how many women prime ministers have they gotten? How many? None. No, but compared the percentage, 1%. Yes, it's 1%. How many? There are 2 or 3, but it's 1% compared to the men. If you work out the percentage, yeah, 3 out of how many? Yes. Yes, but look at the time they spend.
Let's allow her to finish. She will comment.
Yes, but it is good that we have this conversation as well. You find out that the men spend longer, the women, look, the last, yes, he kicked out without her even being given a chance. Yes, so now I've been told that I have only 3 minutes. So let me also say that even when you look at our constitution, when was the last time Tanzania revised its constitution? When was the last time?
2012, we had a process which would have introduced something in this country we are calling 50-50. There would have been 50-50 for every public office. And then somehow, one of the aspects, and then somehow that draft disappeared. So we have not had a constitutional review.
See? So that's the point I'm making. In most of our, that's the point I'm making. In most of our countries, we inherited constitutions. And in those constitutions, they are gender blind. And even in Gambia, they tried to come up with a new constitution. It was rejected by Parliament. Ask me who is in Parliament. And since time immemorial, since independence, only 7% are women in that Parliament. 7%. Yes. Despite we have 3 republics, women form only 7%. How many percent of women do you have in your parliament? How many? 30%. You have 30%. 30%. When? Since when? Since last year, not before. Okay. Yes, how many percent? Tanzania? Kenya? Rwanda is doing well. Yes. Hmm? Yes, so let us also look at the various sources of women's human rights and equality. So you find out that even where the laws tell you that women are equal, in fact,
Attention, please. Let's listen to the speaker.
There's a difference between what is in the law and what is, in fact, de jure and de facto. They are different. There is a difference between the law, policy, and practice. So you find out, yes, many of our constitutions are beautifully written, but then when it comes to implementation, we are talking about something else. And it doesn't stop there, because we carried out a research on political party manifestos and constitutions. You found out that the men are the ones taking control of the political party. The women are the cooks, they are the cheerleaders, and when the men are tired of them, they put them into political wings. Yes, women's wings, where they go and talk amongst themselves or to themselves.
Forward, please.
Yes, so now, I just want to highlight that we do have a whole lot of, in Africa, we do have a lot of documents, source documents on the rights of women. And that includes the Nairobi forward-looking strategies. We are also using the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. We are looking at Vienna Declaration and Program of Action, where they recognize women's rights as human rights. We also look at the MDGs and also goal 5 of the SDGs. We are looking at the African Women's Decade that was pronounced by the African Union. And we also, I'm sure some of us know a lot about CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. There's also Resolution 1325, which is looking at women, peace, and security. These are all dealing with women. And we believe that when you also look at the Constitutive Act of the African Union, you find out that it also has some elements of gender equality. And in 2004, you also know that there is the Solemn Declaration on Gender Equality in Africa, which was adopted by the heads of states and government. So this protocol that we are celebrating is 20 years this year on the 11th of July. And it entered into force on the 15th of November, on the 25th of November, 2005. This was one of the fastest conventions or treaties that entered into force in about 2 years. Most of our treaties, like we are talking about the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance, it's there. But how many states have ratified? It's something else. The African Women's Protocol that we are talking about, 44 states ratified. We still have 11 outstanding that have not ratified. And out of that 11, 3 have not even signed. They've not bothered to sign or ratify. Yes? And Morocco is the only one that have not even signed, one of them that have not signed or ratified. And they've not, to make matters worse, they have not even signed the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So, yes, so it's the only country that have not ratified the African Charter. And it is also because you cannot sign and ratify the African Women's Protocol if you are not a state party to the African Charter. So there we are. So why? I think, has anybody told you why? Because the provisions, when you look at the charter, when you hear a protocol is a document that reinforces a previous document. So the previous document was the African Charter. So when you look at the African Charter, it has provisions, but those provisions, it is believed, were not enough to capture the lives of women, the lives that women are living in their different milieus. And when you look at the Charter, Article 2, it did have Article 2, non-discrimination, but it wasn't enough because people are discriminated. Even in your own constitutions, you find out that, yes, there is, in your constitutions, there's that non-discriminatory clause. There's also the clause on equality before the law. But apart from that, you find out that women do not even want to come out. And to be able to do that, I think it was necessary. I believe it was necessary for a treaty that reflects the history, that reflects the traditions, the values, and development of women in Africa. So the African Commission was entrusted to look at the Charter, and when we talk about the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, it's looking at you at the individual and the group level, the collective level. And it's unique. That makes it unique because most of the other charters from the regions, they are basically looking at individuals. So, but here, the charter recognizes groups that are here. But also in the charter, you find out that there was Article 18. And in Article 18, it was believed that it was inadequate because it prohibits discrimination only in the context of the family. And we felt that it was not enough because they were not talking about, it did not reflect on marriage. It was not also looking at the right to consent, the right equality between the spouses, and so on and so forth. So it was felt that, that there is need to look at that. And if you look at like I said yesterday, when you look at the protocol, it looks at the personal law of women, which is absent in many treaties. It looks at marriage, it looks at divorce, it looks at inheritance, and it also looks at abortion, sexual rights, and health and rights. So, because we also know that there is the tradition of wife inheritance. There is also early and forced marriages. These are all areas and FGM, harmful traditional practices, that the protocol has sought to deal with. I know that my time is up, but I just want to share a few things and to also indicate that it is very important for us to know that, let me go a bit, that this is one of the few documents in the world that are talking about the rights of widows, the rights of refugees, and also recognizing that women suffer the brunt of rape, sexual crimes, and it is recognized by the protocol. And they are looking at marginalized groups. You are looking at pregnant women, you know. You are also looking at the elderly, you know, and others, nursing mothers. So now you see that in some countries like the Gambia, when you are pregnant, you are entitled to 6 months leave, 6 months before, 6 months after. Previously, it was 3 months, yes, it was, yes, but it has been, so you have 1 year to look after your baby and to heal yourself. But in some of our countries, you find out that when you are pregnant, you might even lose your job because particularly if you are working in parastatals, you might not get the opportunity to stay on. But the African Women's Protocol is also promoting the fact that pregnant women, lactating mothers should be given time to heal. And that makes it very interesting. Violence against women, and all these other things. But let me stop there. Perhaps when we
Give me
have
one or two if you have strategies.
strategies. Okay, some of the strategies include making sure that you share the information. Share information on the protocol, because not many people know about the protocol. And even if they know about the protocol, they don't know how to go about getting more information. So it is important that you know about the protocol yourself and you share that information. And then you also need to access to that information to make sure that you have to join groups that are advocating for the ratification of the protocol and subsequent implementation. You also have to use extensive outreach efforts. Yes, you also have to make sure that you use the local language, that people translate, you can also even publish, make audios, in the local language so that they understand. You can also use posters and have focal group discussions about it. And you also need to, if you work in institutions, you have to promote the use of gender perspectives in everything that you do. Because without incorporating gender perspectives in your work, you risk getting into problems. You also need to empower institutions and individuals to effectively promote and protect gender justice. Yes, because gender justice is crucial if you want to get anything done. Yes, can you remember in some of our countries, like in Sudan, they say, she was raped. They say, what was she wearing? Did she invite you because she wore some whatever? You cannot control yourself. You have to go and rape her. Is that justice? So we also need to make sure that if all else fails, we should be ready to litigate. Because by litigating, we are able to build jurisprudence and make sure that whoever commits a crime will be punished for it. It will also be important to target those states that have not yet signed, like Morocco, like Botswana, to make sure that they know that this particular document is useful for all of us. And also teaching in schools. We have to also teach in schools, and we also have to develop more tools in our work. We also need to accelerate legislative reforms. Commissioner has told us about the fact that they had started to look at their constitution to change it, but it stopped midway. Can you start as lawyers or as people interested in seeing reforms?
35 years, I can't stop her now. We'll discuss when now you come to... Yes. I provoked her to do the strategies, and that's a very important part of our declaration, because the education around the protocol is very important. But then our document will have meaning when we take it to the African Union, when we show the strategies. So that's why I provoked her, and she has come out. How to stop the 35 years is my problem, of experience. Anyhow, Dr. Let me get the name right. I have to treat you. No. I have to treat you equally. Yes, we are now gonna listen to Dr. Maneng Sunday Patricia. She's the founder of Girls Empowerment for Leadership in Cameroon. You are between us and lunch. You are between us and lunch, so please. I will show you the 3 minutes, 0 minutes. Yeah.
No problem.
But at the same time, you have to realize whatever years of experience, how you compare with 35.
Yes.
Okay. Please.
Okay. Thank you, the moderator, to give me the floor right now. I am Dr. Maneng, as you presented already. I'll present both in English and French. I'll have it in 2 parts. And my presentation is segmented in 5 parts. So, I'll just show or I'll just present what I've prepared for you to make it more interactive during the question and answer sessions. But for now, I'm supposed to give you facts and statistics. It's very important. So I'm supposed to focalize on Article 12 of the Maputo Protocol, Rights to Education. So as I told you earlier, my presentation is divided into 5 parts. We have the situational analysis of girls' education in Africa. We have girls' education in countries affected by conflicts, obstacles of girls' schooling, the benefits of investing in girls' education, and lastly, involvement of states, international organizations, and non-governmental organizations. So we should start by situational analysis of girls' in, education in Africa. So I want really to start by defining maybe what is girls' empowerment and what is education and right. So girls' empowerment is giving the legitimate power or authority to girls to perform a task. If the girls and women were empowered, they would be able to participate in the resolutions of crises and contribute in peace building. So now, what is education right? So education right is that every girl everywhere and everywhere has the right and have the key to transforming her life and the life of her community. So getting into girls' schooling is now a challenge right now in Africa and the world as a global. So in Africa, like we know that Africa is a diverse continent made up of more than 50 countries with a wide range of cultures, some relatively wealthy, others dependent on foreign aids, like maybe Cameroon and other countries, some plagued by civil wars like Cameroon and Congo, as we heard yesterday, and other stable democracies, some with relatively highly educated populations, and others with population in barely literate, which is barely literate. So now in Africa, girls go to school on average 2.82 years before they turn 16. So only 46% of these girls who enrolled in school complete primary school education. However, there is a wide gender gap in school enrollment in West Africa. In Guinea-Bissau, for example, just 60% of girls enroll in primary school, compared with 100% of boys. In the more remote regions of Mali, for example, official statistics shows that the gross enrollment rate for girls is just 29%. So, unfortunately, Africa still has the highest number of countries in conflict and low-income countries under pressure. These countries are characterized by a combination of weak policies, inadequate institutions, poor governance, and human rights violations. Of the 17 sub-Saharan African countries where school enrollment rates fell in 1990s, 6 experienced major armed conflicts in which girls were particularly vulnerable. So some estimates shows that 50% of out-of-school children live in conflict-affected environments. So official figures indicates that the gross enrollment rate for the girls is only about 29%. So now, girls' education in countries affected by conflicts, such as Cameroon and Congo. Girls' particular vulnerabilities in terms of physical safety and their exposure to physical violence are identified in emergency or conflict situations. Countries emerging from armed conflicts are challenging environment in which they work. So countries where conflict has just ended, such as Sudan, finds their social and material infrastructures in ruin or poorly preserved. So now, for example, we can actually have advantages in these situations where the opportunity of promoting girls educations, doing the support of constructions of new schools in this area where I talked about Sudan. We can actually design some benefits such as while constructing these schools, we can think of separating toilets, or protecting enclosures, suitable spaces for female teachers, why not? Or construct a curriculum development which should be systematically included in understanding the gender issues in all areas and ensures the teaching and learning material takes into account the needs of girls and boys particularly. So now I'm turning into French because I want to focalize on the obstacles of girls' schooling. So all of us actually know what are the obstacles of girls schooling in Africa, but I'll just summarize it a little bit. So I'm supposed to take in French now. Donc, les obstacles liés à la scolarisation des jeunes filles en Afrique sont le mariage précoce. Je pense que nous avons parlé de ça hier. Donc, nous voyons que chaque année, 12 millions de filles sont mariées avant l'âge de 18 ans. Donc, les mariages précoces ont des conséquences graves sur la santé des filles. On voit les violences basées sur le genre, nous avons parlé de cela, les grossesses précoces, VIH, VBG et consorts, mais également sur leur éducation. Donc, en effet, lorsqu'une fille scolarisée se marie tôt, elle doit généralement quitter l'école. Elle perd la possibilité de prendre des décisions concernant sa santé, son corps, son bien-être et celui même de ses enfants. Elle ne pourra pas apprendre un métier pour être indépendante économiquement parlant. Inversement, peut-être, pourquoi pas, on sait que plus la durée de la scolarisation des filles est longue, moins les filles ont de la chance d'être mariées tôt et plus elles peuvent devenir des femmes libres et autonomes. Donc, ça c'était le premier facteur. On va aller au deuxième facteur, les facteurs socio-culturels. Nous voyons la répartition traditionnelle des rôles dans la contribution des tâches domestiques, réticence culturelle des familles à laisser une fille sortie du foyer. Les facteurs socio-culturels sont nombreux. Pour réduire la discrimination, il faut sensibiliser les parents, les chefs de village, les leaders communautaires et religieux et bénéficier de l'éducation des filles pour que l'éducation des filles est bénéfique pour leur communauté. Nous allons aussi voir la pauvreté dans les familles qui est un facteur aussi essentiel ou bien qui contribue à la déscolarisation des jeunes filles dans nos pays. Donc, pour certains foyers, la scolarisation des filles se traduit par une perte de revenus ou d'aide à la maison. Il arrive également que les familles n'aient pas les moyens de contribuer aux frais scolaires ou d'acheter même les fournitures et les uniformes. Et souvent, lorsqu'il faut faire un choix entre les filles et les garçons, ils sont beaucoup plus penchés à la scolarisation des jeunes garçons. Donc, nous allons aussi voir peut-être de façon volatile les violences de genre en milieu scolaire, les situations d'urgence. Lorsque je vais partager ma présentation, vous allez voir ces différents facteurs qui contribuent à la déscolarisation des jeunes filles dans nos pays. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'il y a lieu de retenir dans cette présentation? Il est essentiel pour nous de ressortir les avantages de l'investissement dans l'éducation de la jeune fille dans nos communautés. Quels sont ces avantages? L'éducation contribue à l'émancipation de la jeune fille et lui permet d'échapper au mariage précoce. Et aujourd'hui encore, une fille instruite est un leader pour sa génération. C'est vrai, parce qu'aujourd'hui, nous voyons très bien toutes les jeunes femmes et les jeunes filles qui sont ici présentes durant cette conférence. C'est grâce à l'éducation qu'elles sont là aujourd'hui. Parce que si elles n'étaient pas éduquées, elles n'auront pas cet outil-là pour pouvoir non seulement présenter les droits, les obligations, mais aussi, pourquoi pas, essayer d'étaler avec conviction ce qu'elles doivent faire en tant que femmes et en tant que jeunes filles. Donc, pourquoi doit investir dans l'éducation des jeunes filles? Les jeunes filles, l'éducation des jeunes filles génère des avantages économiques et sociaux. Ça, c'est très important. L'instruction de la jeune fille contribue à l'accroissement de son revenu personnel et réduit à la pauvreté de la communauté. Nous savons que lorsqu'une jeune femme est indépendante économiquement parlant, non seulement c'est un bienfait pour elle-même, mais c'est aussi un bienfait pour sa famille et ses enfants. Donc, selon un article de l'UNICEF intitulé « L'éducation des filles, éducation de base et égalité des sexes », si les enfants filles en Afrique sont scolarisés, le taux de mariage précoce diminuera de 64%. Et si le mariage précoce des filles est interdit, le taux de natalité sera en baisse. Donc, il est donc indéniable de dire que l'école est un moyen pour offrir une chance de réussite à chaque femme. Grâce à l'éducation, comme je le disais encore, certaines femmes telles que Michelle Obama, Aïcha Diallo, Enna Andan Ismaël, Caliste Beyala, etc., ont marqué l'histoire de l'Afrique. L'implication des États, organisations internationales et organisations non gouvernementales dans l'autonomisation de la femme ou bien de la jeune fille ou dans l'éducation de la jeune fille. Nous allons faire un peu un retour sur l'article 12 du protocole Maputo, que je ne vais pas présenter certainement ici, parce que nous l'avons devant nous. Je pense que nous tous, nous avons ce protocole que le comité d'organisation nous a si bien imprimé. Si nous allons à l'article 12, il est inscrit tout ce que le gouvernement, nos gouvernements doivent faire en ce qui concerne l'éducation de la jeune fille. Donc maintenant, moi j'aimerais m'y atteler sur l'implication même, parce qu'on a un peu marre de toujours tirer sur nos gouvernements, sur nos États. Nous savons qu'ils ne suivent pas toujours ou bien qu'ils ne mettent pas réellement en œuvre, n'est-ce pas, les recommandations du protocole. Maintenant, qu'est-ce que nous, société civile, qu'est-ce que les organisations internationales qui nous renforcent ou bien qui nous soutiennent, parfois financièrement ou matériellement parlant, sommes censés faire? Donc, en ce qui concerne l'implication des organisations internationales et des organisations non gouvernementales où nous sommes aujourd'hui, il est nécessaire de s'assurer que les initiatives ciblées ne sont pas des îlots d'excellence, mais qu'elles sont intégrées dans les régimes d'enseignement. Deuxièmement, il est essentiel de mener des évaluations et des collectes d'informations de qualité au niveau local pour le développement de pratiques et de politiques éducatives de qualité qui traitent les filles et les garçons de manière égale. Il est aussi essentiel de mener des campagnes en faveur d'une variété d'approches centrées sur le processus budgétaire de manière réaliste, accorder le temps, l'argent, la réflexion nécessaire à la promotion de l'éducation des filles et enfin, mais pas les moindres, évaluer les progrès du gouvernement grâce à des outils spécifiques, comme par exemple la budgétisation traduisant les besoins différents des filles et des garçons au niveau régional. Maintenant, comme recommandation ou bien comme stratégie, il est très essentiel pour nous de vraiment mettre en exergue cette recommandation parce que c'est une observation que je tire de par mon expérience. Je vous ai parlé tôt le matin, ce matin-ci, de l'expérience que j'ai eue pour le maintien des jeunes filles à l'école lorsque j'ai aidé plus de 1500 jeunes filles à retourner à l'école. Nous avons eu beaucoup de difficultés parce qu'il faut savoir que nous avons fourni principalement des fournitures scolaires, des frais de scolarité et aussi des tracts sur l'hygiène intime, mais aussi des serviettes hygiéniques what they call in English PATS, what women actually put to prevent from staining. Donc, mais nous n'avons pas pris en compte certains facteurs intrinsèques qui contribuaient aussi à la déscolarisation des jeunes filles, tels que l'assurance maladie, l'accès aux services de soins, de santé équitable. Nous n'avons pas pris en compte aussi la composante de nutrition. Nous n'avons pas aussi pris en compte la santé mentale, parce qu'il faut être réaliste, parce que là où nous avons mis en œuvre ce projet, c'était, sachant que le Cameroun est encore en période de crise, il est essentiel de savoir que le projet avait été mis en œuvre dans les régions hautes des déplacés internes ressortissants de la crise anglophone. Donc, nous avons aidé ces ressortissantes, ces filles ressortissantes de la crise anglophone à retourner à l'école. Mais maintenant, il faut savoir que ces jeunes filles que nous avons aidées n'avaient pas uniquement des problèmes de scolarité. Elles avaient des problèmes psychologiques aussi, parce que lorsqu'on se tient là, on voit nos familles, parfois nos maris, parfois nos enfants décapités devant nous, se faire violer, se faire déshabiller, se faire raser, parfois des maisons détruites. Ce n'est pas uniquement la scolarisation qui est importante. Il est aussi question pour nous de prendre en compte la partie psychologique, parce que ces filles sont détruites psychologiquement parlant. Donc, il était essentiel pour nous d'aussi apporter un soutien psychologique à ces jeunes filles, parce que celles-ci ressortissaient, en fait, parce que quand elles sont arrivées dans leur communauté haute, elles se sont mises à la prostitution pour certaines, l'esclavage domestique pour d'autres, et d'autres ne savaient pas quoi faire parce qu'elles n'avaient ni repères, ni famille, ni moyens, ni rien pour pouvoir commencer, débuter une nouvelle vie. Rien du tout. Donc, lorsque nous avons apporté ce soutien financièrement et avec les fournitures scolaires, certaines filles, non seulement elles ont perdu la vie aussi, parce qu'elles n'avaient pas de quoi manger, parce qu'il faut savoir que les aides au développement, nous on recevait aussi uniquement un financement, mais qu'il fallait disséminer. Mais malheureusement, ce n'est pas en continu, c'est pendant une période donnée, c'est ponctuel. Et lorsque c'est ponctuel, c'est pendant une année. Et lorsque c'est une année, aujourd'hui tu payes, demain tu ne vas pas payer. Mais malheureusement, nos États n'ont pas mis un mécanisme de pérennisation du programme. Parce qu'ils se sont juste focalisés, et comme je disais encore hier, on se focalise juste sur le programme, le projet, ce que les autres apportent, mais qu'est-ce que nous apportons? Je ne vais pas prétendre que mon organisation a les moyens pour pouvoir maintenir ces 1500 jeunes filles à l'école pendant 5 ans. Non, c'est faux. C'est très faux. Il faut que le gouvernement puisse nous renforcer équitablement pour que nous puissions aider ces jeunes filles parce qu'elles font aussi partie de nos communautés, de nos populations. Et quand je parle pas uniquement du Cameroun, mais je parle aussi des autres pays en crise. Il faut que le Cameroun prévoie un budget pour la réinsertion de ces jeunes filles dans nos communautés. Pas uniquement politiquement parlant, mais aussi académiquement, politiquement, économiquement. Parce que les jeunes filles, oui, mais elles ont des parents, elles ont des sœurs. Il faut qu'on leur donne un système. Il faut qu'on leur donne la possibilité. OK, on vous donne aujourd'hui, mais demain, vous pourrez vous-même le faire. Donc, en conclusion, voici les stratégies dont je disais, dont je parlais. Il est question pour nous, et peut-être pour les organisations internationales aussi, de mettre en place un mécanisme de suivi du protocole Maputo en créant un comité de suivi stratégique avec comme membres des représentants des pays ayant ratifié le protocole, tels que les pays, l'ONU, l'Union africaine, les organisations internationales, les OSC, etc., avec pour but d'évaluer la mise en œuvre effective du protocole dans les pays qui ont ratifié. Parce que plusieurs choses sont faites, mais on ne sait pas exactement qu'est-ce qui est fait. Il est essentiel pour nous de pouvoir évaluer, suivre le protocole dans ces pays-là. Donc, en conclusion, préoccupé par le fait qu'en dépit de la ratification par la majorité des États partis à la Charte africaine des droits de l'homme et des peuples et de tous les autres instruments internationaux relatifs aux droits de l'homme et de l'engagement solennel pris par ces États d'éliminer toutes les formes de discrimination et de pratiques néfastes à l'égard des femmes, la femme en Afrique continue d'être l'objet de discrimination et de pratiques néfastes. Merci.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maneng, Sunday Patricia, for that very powerful presentation. I can see now however how many years of experience, it borders the same level with the 35 years of experience. Now, we have got a maximum of 15 minutes. These 15 minutes separate us from lunch, but also Madam Forster has to attend to another engagement at 3. Even the 15 minutes, she won't be able to get there on time, but I thought we need to have discussion for those 15 minutes. You have listened to the analysis of the protocol, including the strategies. The 11 states we are told, 3 have not ratified at all. We know them, and they will include, when we come to the report, my secretariat will name them, just to provide information. We are not shaming anybody, but want to provide information. We have just had statistics. Both of them spoke about when you empower a woman, and doctor emphasized girls' education. It eliminates some of these negative, harmful practices. You educate a girl, so you're empowering her economically, you're even removing the threat of early marriage. I will not be able to cover everything that they said, but just to pick some of the highlights of the presentations, I now invite comments from the floor. Comments from the floor. Today, I will try to give the floor to those who did not speak yesterday. We want to be as broad as possible. Doctor will not give you the floor today. You had a full session. I'll start with the lady at that end, and then I'll go to the gentleman there, and then somebody from this side. And in the 15 minutes, if you don't do another presentation, you just go to the point. We are probably going to do more than at least 2 rounds. The 3, 1, 2, and my colleague over there. Yes, and then the next one will come there. Please be brief to the point, and then we do quickly. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Self, and then you proceed.
Merci beaucoup pour la parole. Je m'appelle Jacqueline Ninhounze. Je suis médecin de formation et je travaille actuellement avec CARE. J'ai l'expérience dans le développement des projets et programmes de santé et droits sexuels et reproductifs. Et merci aux collègues qui viennent de présenter. Surtout avec l'analyse du protocole et aussi les stratégies déjà proposées. Je voudrais juste aussi ajouter, sinon renforcer, sur l'éducation qu'on doit donner aux filles, aux femmes. La sensibilisation, c'est bon, le renforcement de capacités. Mais aussi, j'ajouterais qu'il faut un engagement des hommes aussi. Il faut engager les hommes, il faut surtout engager les jeunes garçons, parce que ce sont des futurs maris, ce sont ces auteurs de violences. Et je trouve qu'il est très important que les programmes puissent prendre en considération ces personnes. Parce que le plus souvent, on a tendance à penser que on doit éduquer les femmes, alors que les femmes, oui, c'est bien qu'elles soient conscientes qu'il y a des violences, qu'il y a des inégalités, mais surtout, et surtout, s'il y a engagement des hommes qui comprennent qu'ils ont besoin de changer. Et on voit que les décideurs d'aujourd'hui ne sont pas en train de faire... bon, ils sont en train de travailler, mais pas de grandes choses. Mais les futurs garçons, filles, il faut que dans l'avenir, on prépare ces jeunes. Dans les programmes et les projets, on a tendance...
Doctor, point taken. Involve the youth and men because they are the authors of domestic violence.
Oui,
the
oui.
clarification we get it.
Mais aussi
Time is of essence. Please, let's respect time.
Engager aussi les communautés, c'est-à-dire globalement, engager les leaders religieux, engager les parents, engager aussi les enseignants, avoir une approche, je dirais, globale qui engage, c'est-à-dire le jeune va trouver les informations à l'école, à la maison, mais aussi dans les centres qu'on pourrait créer ou les centres existants pour les jeunes. Donc il faut que ces informations sur le protocole de Maputo soient disponibles partout où le jeune passe, partout où les femmes passent, c'est-à-dire disséminées vers les endroits possibles. Voilà.
Dr. Jacqueline, the gentleman at the back.
Thank you, presenters, for exquisite presentation as you have delivered. But unfortunately, it is a shame. It is a shame that we have the Constitution.
Your name?
My name is Richie Juma Ramadani Kilal. Back to my point, because there is where the fruit of what I'm about to deliver is. It is a shame. It is a shame that we have the Constitution that doesn't appreciate its wealthy. Those who are familiar with the Constitution of the United Republic of Tanzania, I would love you to pay a visit at your own time in the articulations of Article 64. I respect your concept of time. Please, allow me 3 minutes to deliver. Please respect. It's just a mere comment, please, sir. Please visit the articulations of Article 64, sub-Article 5, but also visit the articulations of Article 13, as it clearly negates the fact that there should be no discrimination.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
your recommendation for Tanzania?
Unfortunately, the legal system is poor, weak, a toothless dog. It doesn't bite. The same has been articulated in the Constitution, but yet the laws conflict with the Constitution. Respectively, the Law of the Child Act, the law of the marriage. If you visit the articulations of Section 13, Section 17 of the Law of the Marriage, will tell you what I'm about to tell you. But also, the mechanism of implementing these laws is very poor. The court system in Tanzania is very poor to the extent that it cannot put in motion its own decisions. The execution is worse, smelling, worse. But also, I wonder why the members of the parliament sits in the parliament.
My brother, can you give us a strategy based on your local experience of how we implement this protocol in view of those challenges?
Here comes my strategy. First of all, the members of the parliament, the concept of members of the parliament. The members of the parliament should not be elected basing on their popularity. because they are the ones who are going to make laws. We cannot make laws by people whom are just elected because of the member of their popularity, and they are going to sit and make laws for us to run the state.
Take the point that we have to look at the electoral process so that it is sensitive to the rights of women and how we will implement these rights through our national legal frameworks. So that's a recommendation. Please, can we go to the other speaker on that side?
Ok, assalamu alaikum. Moi, c'est M. Ahmed Malidé de l'Union des Comores. Je voulais juste poser ou insister la notion de la pression parentale. Chez nous, les mariages précoces proviennent aussi de cette pression. C'est-à-dire que papa et maman, il y a un monsieur avec une mallette, il vient, je veux cette fille, même s'il n'a pas l'âge. Donc du coup, la loi comorienne maintenant interdit et protège. Et actuellement, les cadis, les naïbul cadis ne peuvent pas faire marier une jeune fille qui n'a pas encore atteint l'âge normal. Mais ça se fait toujours. Donc du coup, c'est pourquoi j'insiste pour que cette notion de pression parentale soit aussi prise en compte. Oui, ça c'est une première question. La deuxième question, c'est que par rapport à la sensibilisation, souvent dans les milieux reculés, le gouvernement, la présence du gouvernement, des autorités n'est pas. Donc du coup, il se passe beaucoup de choses. Donc il nous est à notre responsabilité en tant que société civile d'intervenir pour compléter ou pour faire interagir. Mais souvent, on a des difficultés parce que les chefs des villages et les cadis, parce que ces actions se font par le biais de l'argent. Moi, je vais faire marier mon enfant, mais je veux payer. Et donc, pour des raisons pour exemple pécuniaires, ils nous perdent la route encore. Donc, du coup, j'ai à peu près deux, trois villages vulnérables auxquels les femmes n'osent pas lever le ton parce que même pour parler devant les hommes, parler de leur douleur, c'est difficile. Donc, la durée de ces enfants, la durée de ces mariages, c'est très courte parce que le monsieur peut avoir 40-45 ans et après, la jeune fille va se retrouver autour d'elle des charges familiales seules et avec la notion de la comment dire, je peux avoir 3 ou 4 femmes, je ne sais pas, en tout cas, la loi musulmane le permet et donc je peux laisser, voilà.
Yes. Are you done? I think we understood you. First of all, parental pressure, and the second one, sensitization of civil society playing a role to sensitize local and religious communities.
Et l'observation de la durée du mariage, c'est très court aussi. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The floor to the presenters, and we will not be going to the second round. We can raise these issues in subsequent sessions. Please.
I like my colleague's presentation, but then perhaps we also need to point out the fact that when we are looking at economic, social, and cultural rights, it's important for us to note that when we are talking about the acquisition of economic, social, and cultural rights, it's important to know that there are challenges in terms of justifiably providing for them. Yes, and if you look at the provisions, it will show you that if a country tells you that I don't have, yes, you have a right to education, yes, but if we don't have money to provide that education, what do we do? Do we force the government to go and steal or to go and do something for it? I think we need to have at the back of our minds the principle of progressive, that's right, progressive realization, because otherwise you will want something, because even when you look at political rights, it tells you, okay, you have a right to freedom of expression. And then they tell you within the law of the land. It takes it back. Where you thought you held something. So when we are looking at these rights, yes, they are there, but how do we make it realistic? How are we able to achieve them realistically? Yes, that is one thing. But then the other thing is, you were talking about the 3 countries that have neither signed nor ratified. We are looking at Egypt, we are looking at Morocco, we are looking at Botswana. Those are the 3 countries that have not. Yes. So it will be good for us to, because Botswana is your neighbor. It's not far from here. Yes. But Egypt is right there, and it's very difficult to get them to do this. One other thing that I also want to ask before I leave is to look at the idea of reservations. Lifting of reservations. It's very important. And most of the reservations are around the personal law of the women. So we need to find a way of amplifying our voices to say that these rights are important, and there is need to make sure that the women enjoy them. In the Gambia, when they first ratified, they had reservations on Articles 5, 6, 7, and 14, which were at the heart of the protocol. Because if you tell the person that you cannot enjoy your rights to marriage, you cannot give, anybody can just come and give you away. They don't need your consent, you know. And then they also look at divorce, that when they divorce you, they can kick you out. But inheritance is also another area. Abortion, you know. So we have to make sure that we know exactly where those reservations are, and to be able to now design a strategy. I'm not too sure, but I believe this particular training should have components of advocacy. Yes, development of advocacy plans. Because many times you find out that we have fire brigade tactics, you know. When something happens at the time, you think, okay, let me quickly go and do it. But advocacy, an effective advocacy strategy helps you to develop your plan. Yes, to know that this is what I want to do, and to prepare your plan accordingly, so that by the time it hits, you have anticipated the demand, and you have been able to carry out your analysis, and before it takes root, you are able to deal with it. But if you have to wait for something to happen and then you are like, no, it could create much more problems than you know. So I'm sure if it's not included, the next time you bring them together, think of training them on developing advocacy strategies, effective advocacy strategies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Mrs. Hannah, I have a question to Dr. Maneng. You mentioned something very important. I want to hear from you how. When you were concluding, you said we need a monitoring program on the pre-implementation of the Maputo Protocol. As we're making a recommendation of strategies, how do we have that implementation program? I wanted you to address that one when you are responding to the floor.
So maybe I'll end with your question or your preoccupation. Je vais commencer par la préoccupation ou bien de Madame Anna Forster en ce qui concerne la mise en place réaliste de l'éducation dans nos États. Je veux rappeler quelque chose. Je suis activiste, je ne suis pas membre de l'État, mais dans mon œuvre, bien dans mon action, j'essaye de comprendre la psychologie de l'État dans la mise en œuvre des recommandations. Il est important de savoir que dans chaque État, il y a l'élaboration du budget, ce qu'on appelle la budgétisation annuelle. On parle ici de l'éducation des jeunes filles, qui est l'avenir de demain. Lorsqu'on dit c'est un droit, certes, voyons d'abord comment c'est fait aujourd'hui, l'éducation. Je parle principalement de mon pays, le Cameroun. Je ne peux pas justifier, ou bien je ne peux pas parler au nom de notre pays, que mon pays, le Cameroun. Le Cameroun, déjà, dans notre État, les enseignants sont sous-payés et nous avons une masse d'immigration vers le Canada qui accroît tous les jours, ou presque on n'a même plus d'enseignants au pays. Mais alors que nous voyons tel département ou tel ministère mieux budgétisé que le ministère de l'Éducation, mais posons-nous un peu la question. Quel est le plus important? Quelles sont les priorités? C'est l'éducation qui est l'avenir de demain, ou bien c'est les voyages, les conférences? Ça, c'est entre guillemets. Est-ce qu'on peut vraiment parler de la réalité de l'éducation, du droit à l'éducation? Mais à un moment donné, ce sont les enfants en général, et en particulier les jeunes filles, qui sont les leaders de demain. Si nous n'investissons pas sur cette population, sur cette couche de population, on va investir où? Si nous n'avons pas les connaissances pour être les médecins de demain, c'est le ministère de la Santé qui sera plus budgétisé. Si nous n'avons pas les connaissances pour la justice, c'est le ministère de la Justice qui sera plus budgétisé. Mais réfléchissons-en. À un moment donné, quelles sont nos priorités? Je laisse en suspens pour que chacun de nous, nous y réfléchissons, pour que ce soit une recommandation pour nos États. Maintenant, lorsque je vais en venir à la question, ou bien au rajout de Dr Jacqueline, qui concerne l'implication des jeunes garçons. Certainement, ce n'est pas ricochet. Lorsque nous éduquons les jeunes filles, les jeunes garçons ne sont pas mis de côté, hein, pas du tout. Ce sont des acteurs clés même de l'autonomisation de la jeune fille. Parce que s'ils ne comprennent pas le système, on ne part nulle part. Je prends l'exemple de mon organisation. J'ai parlé du maintien de la jeune fille à l'école, qui incluait 1500 jeunes filles, mais ça ne veut pas dire que lors de l'implémentation de ce programme, les garçons n'étaient pas impliqués. Ils étaient impliqués, ils étaient des parties prenantes même dans l'implémentation de cette activité. Parce que ceux-là, comme vous avez dit, ce sont les maris de demain qui perpétuent aussi les violences. S'ils ne connaissent pas, ils ne sont pas sensibilisés, ils ne pourront pas agir en conformité avec nos droits en tant que femmes. Maintenant, par rapport à ce que notre jeune frère du Comore a parlé de la pression parentale, oui, j'ai énuméré ici les différents facteurs qui contribuent à la déscolarisation de la jeune fille, autant pour moi, et j'ai parlé de la pauvreté. La pauvreté contribue, parce que c'est à cause de la pauvreté que les parents mettent une pression à la jeune fille d'aller en mariage. On ne va pas dire que c'est le seul facteur, hein, pas du tout, mais c'est le principal facteur. Oui, c'est vrai. Maintenant, allons à l'implémentation du mécanisme que j'ai prévu aujourd'hui. Le mécanisme de suivi stratégique du protocole Maputo, il est très essentiel pour nous de mettre cela en œuvre. Comment le mettre en œuvre? Il faut savoir que j'ai une formation aussi en suivi et évaluation des projets et des programmes. Et ce que nous faisons souvent lorsqu'on veut implémenter un projet, on élabore d'abord un plan d'action. On s'y construit d'abord, c'est pour ça que j'ai dit la mise en place d'un comité de suivi de tous ces acteurs, parce que lorsque j'en parlais même hier encore avec certaines personnes qui sont ici dans cette salle, ils ont dit c'est pas vraiment possible parce que nos États, ils sont eux-mêmes en train de dire que non, on ne peut pas le faire, on ne peut pas faire ceci. Mais non, nous incluons, à part l'État, dans ce comité-là, des organisations internationales, des OSC. Nous savons que nous sommes tous membres de la société civile et nous allons nous rassurer que le protocole Maputo est suivi. C'est notre droit, c'est notre obligation. Si nous sommes des activistes, nous devons le faire. Maintenant, lorsque le plan d'action est élaboré, il faut maintenant, grâce à ce comité de suivi, faire un monitoring de ce plan d'action qui inclut l'implémentation même du protocole dans les différents pays. Parce qu'on ne peut pas dire que plusieurs choses sont faites alors qu'on ne peut même pas vérifier. On vérifie grâce aux rapports. Les rapports peuvent être inventés. Il faut être sur le terrain. Il faut préparer, il faut prévoir des descentes de supervision par ce comité de suivi. Des supervisions dans ces pays-là pour essayer d'évaluer qu'est-ce qui est fait, qu'est-ce qui n'est pas fait, qu'est-ce qui est en cours, quels sont les obstacles que ces États rencontrent pour la mise en place ou bien l'implémentation de ce protocole. Très essentiel. Mais je vous assure, s'il n'y a pas d'évaluation, ça sera juste des mots en l'air que nous donnons tous les jours, sans pour autant voir si réellement c'est fait ou pas. Donc je ne vais pas mordre encore du temps, mais je pense que j'ai quand même essayé de répondre à tout le monde. Merci.
Please give our panel another big round of applause. Thank you very much. Yes, the discussion will continue. The ideas we are going to pick on and continue, and by the time we come out tomorrow, we'll have adopted some semblance of a declaration statement, which will include all these ideas we have discussed. I just want to add on the implementation as an idea. There is 1 year of discussing Maputo at 20, and we want to feed into that debate. So we are taking these ideas and include them. So I'll not prolong this debate or this discussion. We are coming to the end. We're going for lunch on the first floor for 1 hour. We'll come back here to continue the remaining part of the session. When we come back, we'll make a decision on the question I floated, court or no court, when we come back from lunch. But I wanted to make one last important announcement. Tomorrow when we do the closing session, we will recognize your participation by issuing you certificates. And I understand some of you have